uh, I look forward to this conversation every Tuesday. This guy's a Pulitzer Prize winner, multiple best-selling author, and he's so generous to be here on Tuesdays. He's the great David K. Johnston. From the
Hello,
road
Mark.
today.
Good to see you.
Hello, sir. Wow,
Welcome from
yeah.
Newark, New Jersey, where New Orleans is visiting with its weather.
A bit humid, is it?
To say the least.
Well, thank you for spending a couple of minutes with us. We'll try to keep it on the succinct side, but there's been so much going on. Look, let's start. I'll get to J.D. Vance and the RNC, et cetera, and sort of the moves being made there. But I wonder if you can, and we'll go back and we'll look at the Eileen Cannon thing. I want to get to that, which is, because your area is the law and government, but Trump, you've written books on. I really just wanted to talk to you first about the assassination attempt, though, over the weekend, and how that reframes anything or reminds us of the stochastic terrorism that seems to be a bigger part, the one-offs, that seem to be a bigger part of the American framework now. Can you speak to that?
Oh, sure. Well, first of all, 1 in every 11 American presidents has been assassinated. And there were efforts to assassinate a number of others, including FDR, when the mayor of Chicago's Cermak was hit instead by a bullet, Jerry Ford, and Ronald Reagan. We don't know what motivated this young man. And we actually know surprisingly little. We don't even literally know that the bullet in question grazed Trump's ear, because he has not allowed the release of any of his medical records, and the carefully worded statement by the hospital didn't tell us anything useful. Now, there are people out there saying, oh, this was all staged, it was fake. Clearly not, because we have one man who's dead, who turned, the minute he heard gunshots, to shield his wife and children, and 2 people who were injured. And by the way, Trump has not reached out to the dead man's family or the injured people. On the other hand, Joe Biden did. The widow refused to talk to him because her husband is a Republican, which is one of the signs of how unbelievably divided we are and how much Trump has worsened these divisions. And, well, Biden, as he usually does, went to Mass on Sunday. Donald Trump, based on the photographs I'm seeing on the internet, apparently went golfing. I haven't heard him mention the person who was killed yet. Donald, as a polished entertainer, once he realized what had happened, immediately fell into, what he would do, almost as if he practiced it. He comes up, pumps his fist up, and the Secret Service agents didn't guard him completely with their bodies as they're supposed to do, suggesting he may have said something to them when he was down. I mean, we don't know, but it was a little unusual in that regard. And then finally, I would be very cautious about why didn't the government agents, either the law enforcement or the Secret Service, notice the guy crawling onto the roof of a building about 390 feet away, 400 feet. The young man interviewed by the BBC, if you listen carefully, was flailing his arms around and trying to get the attention of law enforcement. He could have wrongly distracted them, not intentionally, but his motions and things may have misled them, because the Secret Service people in particular are trained wherever you're supposed to look, you focus on only that and you ignore everything else around you. And so I caution people about jumping to conclusions. Some of my own investigations and some that I have written about in the last 50 plus years, what seemed obvious on day one when the investigations were complete wasn't the case at all. So I'd be very cautious.
There are a lot of cross currents about this kid, right? He comes from a MAGA household, it seems, with MAGA lawn signs, and he was they had 25 other weapons in the house, and that was his dad's AR. I made the point before that, the Democrats trying to ban that weapon. So
Yes.
it's a weird thing to try to smear the Democrats as the reason for this thing happening, and that smear is out there in a big way, obviously.
And there have been some reports that the mother and the father were fighting each other about Trump and some other issues. She may not have been a Trumper. But yes, one of the great ironies here is Joe Biden's trying to ban this kind of a weapon. Donald Trump says, if I get back in office, no one from the government will touch your guns, period. End of discussion. Stuff you can't make up.
Well, and J.D. Vance, his pick for vice president, now getting a lot of scrutiny as this post is getting. He said it's the Biden administration that's responsible for. I mean, he posted that almost immediately before we knew anything about anything.
Right. Well, and even worse than that, Mark, was Congressman Mike Collins of Georgia, who just flat out blamed Biden, said Biden is behind this. This is ridiculous. Biden did use the unfortunate word bullseye, but if you go and read his comments, it was clear he was talking not about crosshairs, as Biden himself said this afternoon, but he was talking about we need to basically pin responsibility for things on Donald. And unfortunate word, but the Democrats have not been out trying to foment violence. Now, I debated a Trumper on overseas television Sunday, and here was his pitch. The Republicans have proven that they are the party of peace and tranquility. They're the ones seeking to have peace on our streets. And it's the Democrats who go out and burn down cities when they don't like something, like, a man who was resisting arrest and ended up dead. He's talking about George Floyd, who was murdered, jury convicted, all the cops involved of murder or related crimes. I think Donald will get a short-term bump from this, but I don't think it particularly will help him in the long run. But we'll see. It's going to be a little while till we see. But in the previous shootings, it didn't help. It didn't affect Ronald Reagan, though it was a long ways from his reelection, and it certainly didn't help Jerry Ford when he was shot by a woman in San Francisco.
So just to put a button on it, the Democrats have pulled down all their political advertising, and they have sort of they've stood down right now in deference to the moment. Meantime, the RNC is cranked up. They're cranked up with verbiage that's pretty intense, even as they speak about how it's going to be a unified party. The vituperative rhetoric, all associated with how, the Biden administration has created this mess that is America, and it's time for us to, ride to glory. That's the song that's being sung at the RNC. And J.D. Vance, I was making the point in the first hour, David K. Johnston, he is not balancing the ticket. He is truly an extreme right-wing guy, and he is very good on camera, which is probably the reason, in part, that Trump chose him.
Yes, and at some point, he and Trump will come to loggerheads because Donald doesn't want anybody to ever outshine him in any way. That's part of the reason he picked Mike Pence 4 years ago, or 8 years ago. I'm sorry, 8 years ago. J.D. Vance is the man who called Donald Trump cultural heroin. He completely and totally denounced Trump, and then he did what we've seen throughout the Republican Party. Bowing down to Trump, losing your spine, losing your moral qualms, with only two notable exceptions, Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, who were both trashed and primaries and are no longer office holders. And this is the really troubling part. This is not the Republican Party. This is the party of Donald Trump. And it is a cult. And the people who are in it, there are surveys now of Trump supporters, and they show some very interesting things. They credit Donald Trump with all the infrastructure projects that are underway when he never even introduced a bill. It was Joe Biden's bill. If they believe the economy is doing well, they credit Trump. They don't credit Joe Biden. There are polls showing that pro-Trump people believe he created millions of jobs when he's only the second president since we started collecting records more than 100 years ago who left office with fewer jobs than when he came into office. So there's a real serious problem here with lies being told by places like Fox, Breitbart, Newsmax, and that are not effectively being countered by the Democrats, who have always been terrible at messaging, who do not get political marketing, won't listen to people like me who tried to show them here's how you do political marketing, and who, have a long history of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory.
Does typically I would say that these conventions don't really matter these days. They're not, carried the way they used to be. When I was a kid, it was wall to wall, all the networks. There was almost a built-in excitement just because it was everywhere.
Right.
What are the effects of this convention? The speeches, the moments, the visuals. I feel as though, and maybe this is just because of my orientation, people are a little more paying attention this year than they were in the recent past, or is that again just my perspective? What's your sense?
I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen any data, but conventions don't tend to move things. And most people, if you haven't made up your mind by now about Donald Trump, you're probably not a likely voter. There's all this gloom and doom among the Democrats, who spent 2 weeks, not a few days, but 2 weeks in a circular firing squad frenzy that gave all sorts of ad material to Trump. But if the Democrats simply do the basics, they should expand their Senate seats, take control of the House, and hold the White House. And it doesn't matter what they do in California and New York and Massachusetts, just as it doesn't matter what Trump does in Louisiana, Alabama, and Mississippi. But in the states that are in play, now I've said in the past 13 states, and I've ticked them off, the conventional wisdom seems to be 7. But I think in those 13 states, if the Democrats focus on a ground game, get people registered, get them to the polls, and have a ton of lawyers, at the ready on election day when there's efforts to suppress the vote, they should be successful. On the other hand, if they try to outspend the Republicans on TV ads, which the best political science papers I've read suggest that TV ads move about 1/3 of 1% of voters, and they're very expensive. You'd be much better off spending that money on registering, getting people to the polls, and legal defenses than on TV ads. And by the way, why do we have all these TV ads in presidential campaigns? Well, that's how the consultants get paid. They get a
That's
kickback,
exactly right.
typically 12 or 13%. So if you buy $100 million of ads, the consultant's firm gets 12 or $13 million. This is part of what's wrong with our whole financing of campaigns.
This is such a great point that David K. Johnston just made. These consultants keep legacy media alive with huge spends because they get a piece of whatever that spend is. So glad you made that point.
And Mark, one more
Yeah.
thing about that. The TV and radio stations charge their highest rate. If you ever check in a hotel, look at the tag on the back of the door, and it will. I stayed in one recently in California where we paid, I think, $179, but the tag said the highest rate that we charge to this room is, and it was $700 and some dollars. Now, they almost never charge that, but they can't ever charge more than that if there's high demand. Well, the radio stations in political campaigns, they're not allowed to discount. That would be a gift. So they get the $700, not the $192.
Oh, that's a great fact that I did not know. It reminds me of the way the government does not get a break from the Donald Trump organization when they check all the Secret Service agents into all of his different hotels and properties.
Right.
We're paying top
Absolutely.
dollar. All right, so now let me ask you about the Eileen Cannon decision to essentially erase this entire case for now, based on the fact that she is pointing to the appointment of the special prosecutor as having not been an appropriate one. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the door to that was sort of opened by Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, who questioned that special prosecutor.
Clarence Thomas, in one of the recent opinions, gratuitously did something Supreme Court justices aren't supposed to do. He basically wrote a guide to Eileen Cannon. Here's how to get rid of the case that you have on Donald Trump and the documents. Our Constitution says that principal officers of the government, so cabinet secretaries, the Attorney General of the United States, ambassadors, must be appointed only with the advice and consent of the Senate. But the law also says that inferior officers may be created by Congress, and they do not have to be. They can be appointed by the principal officer to whom they ultimately report. Jack Smith's office has cited, I believe, 5 statutes, if memory serves, showing that his appointment is absolutely proper. But Eileen Cannon, in this clearly made to get the results she wanted opinion, I mean, it's just sort of out in space opinion, threw the case out. Now, Jack Smith's office no longer has any reason not to ask the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals in Miami to remove her from the case. They have now said they will appeal. I expect the 11th Circuit will remove her from the case. Remember, her very first filing or order, I'm sorry, her very first order, she said Donald Trump should get special treatment. No one is supposed to get special treatment. We are a nation of laws, not men, much as Judge Cannon doesn't understand that. Even if that Court of Appeals were to act swiftly, I mean, let's assume they next week were to issue a ruling, Trump's people will appeal that to the full Court of Appeals, and then they'll appeal it to the Supreme Court, and it's the whole delay game. So even if Trump does not get back to the White House, and I think it's less likely he will get back to the White House than likely, there's no way we would have a trial before November 5th. So Donald has achieved what he wanted with Eileen Cannon. And by the way, one of the things I haven't seen in the New York Times or the Washington Post or the Wall Street Journal or the LA Times, and maybe I missed it because I was reading pretty quickly, but if you uphold Judge Cannon's decision, then Hunter Biden's case should go away because he was prosecuted by a special prosecutor. Remember, when Joe Biden came in, he, as all presidents do, replaced all the U.S. attorneys, except one, the one pursuing his son. And when he said, I need more authority, he got it. And then when he said, I need even more authority and need to be a special prosecutor, he got it. And Hunter Biden was convicted. If the special counsel has to be approved by the Senate, then the Hunter Biden case should go away too. Hopefully it won't, because it shouldn't, and neither should Donald's.
Yeah, and I'm glad you review Biden's disposition toward things because it's classic institutional Biden. You know, he does not want to do anything that even has the appearance of a conflict, and
right.
He gets no credit for that, and nor do Democrats get any credit for that, just as we note that Merrick Garland, who also wanted no appearance of any kind of bias, should get no credit for it from us who, you know, are on the left, and is in the crosshairs, I'll use it deliberately, of the right, because if they take power, they're saying they want to try him, you know, so he doesn't even, you know, curry favor there.
Mark, I'm gonna make a prediction here. May not happen. Well, qualify it, but do not be surprised if Donald Trump wins. If as soon as he's sworn in, he turns around, points to some people, and has Joe Biden taken into custody, because the symbolic influence of that, I'm now your dictator, would be absolutely overwhelming. And why would you want to go arrest Biden like at 6 o'clock in the morning when nobody's there? Make a show of it. And Donald's an entertainer, as we saw Saturday when there was gunfire and he ended up with blood on his ear.
Yes, I mean, wow, what a bold prediction. Lastly, David, before we let you go, and again, I know it's hot as Hades there, so thank you. The backing of J.D. Vance and the backing of Trump by the big money and high-profile figures, I'm talking about Musk, who stepped right ahead after the assassination, not only reached out to the former president, Trump, but also pledged, I think, $50 million or $48 million a month to his campaign to get him elected. Tucker Carlson, same thing. David Sachs, who threw that big party for him in San Francisco. He's the former founder of PayPal. All of them are riding in and pushing for J.D. Vance also in their moments with Trump. Can you give me a second on that? Hello? David, can you hear me?
Sure. Well, often very wealthy people want things from the government that wouldn't actually be good for them. And if the policies that Trump has talked about, the tariffs and everything else take place, we have 16 Nobel economists who said this would lead to serious problems with the U.S. economy and a huge increase in inflation. The people backing Vance, like Peter Thiel, are all people who are themselves not oriented to anything but their own interests. These are not people with records of showing regard for the least among us, for caring about our liberties and our freedoms, which Donald has made very clear he intends to take away. And J.D. Vance is a man who is as delusional and crazy as Donald. I mean, among other things, he has said that, first of all, daylight savings is causing a 10% drop in fertility among Americans. I'm sorry, what? He has made it very clear that he wants the government to control women's bodies, at least until they're menopausal. And Project 2025, which Trump is trying to push away from, even though there's video of him when it was started saying, these are the people working on the plan we're going to bring into the White House, it would ban the shipment by common carrier of any contraceptive, IUDs, condoms, birth control pills. Any trucking company is a common carrier unless it's owned by the manufacturer and only carries the manufacturer's goods. That's not how you distribute things like medicines or contraceptives. You do those on something called less than truckload trucking or contract trucking, and those are common carriers. So you wouldn't be able to go from manufacturing facility to drugstore or to the post office because it would be banned as well. I mean, the intent of J.D. Vance and Donald Trump is not to increase freedom. It is to impose government control. And the Democrats need to figure out, and fast, how to tell that story, not in the kind of specific policy-oriented detail that I just did, but with slogans and with repetition. The Democrats have got to learn marketing. And secondly, of course, they have to learn right now to get busy getting people registered, confirming their registrations a little before Election Day, having a ton of lawyers available, paid and volunteer on Election Day, and then actually getting people to the polls. Because in every single presidential election, the number one choice voters made was not voting.
Yeah, we talk about it almost every day. The couch wins in American politics. People just don't get off it.
Great line.
I'll let you go get some air conditioning. It's so great to see you, David K. Johnston, and we look forward to next week. Thank you, sir.
Take care.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.